Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody on this, what are we, Tuesday night? I am having trouble keeping track. The beautiful weather and the light still out. It's yeah, good Tuesday night. Welcome, Kevin. I know it says Ron on your name there, but that's we've got Kevin Cougler here with STEM Camp, and we are going to find all out about STEM Camp, what it's like for kids, how it got started, and a bunch of other great things. So thank you for joining us, Kevin. I'm super excited to have you on with us. Why don't we start by you telling a little bit about yourself? Give us a little bit of background on who you are and how this all got started.
I'd be happy to, Amanda, and thanks for inviting me. Great to be on with you and chatting with everybody tonight, and hopefully people go away and they have a great positive experience and they're all excited about STEM. That's certainly the outcome. But yeah, I can give you the 30-second elevator pitch. I'll warn you ahead of time that the 30-second elevator pitch turns into a 5-minute elevator pitch. So if you cut me off, just wave your arms.
Okay.
But I guess to give you kind of the genesis of where this all started, I've been working in not-for-profits and charities for quite a few years now, about 15 years, I guess. Before that, I was an entrepreneur in for-profits. And I think my very first business, of course, was a lemonade stand. And from there, we went to paper routes. And I remember trying to sell rocks to friends in grade 5 and grade 6. And so I think I've always had kind of this entrepreneurial spirit. But now I'm a not-for-profit entrepreneur, and that's a little bit different. So I'll tell you a little bit about how that started. Actually, for those of you that have kids, you might be familiar with this concept, but I remember the day vividly when my son was born. He's now 9 years old. Mm-hmm. And something happens to you biologically, or something inside of you, or in your brain, or in your, the inner workings of your body, and you start to evaluate what you do in your life and what's important to you and where you want to go and the things you want to accomplish, and you start thinking about wanting to help and make a difference and all of those wonderful things. And that's certainly what I experienced, and it was on a, I'm sure that this isn't, particularly the reason why, but it was on a very sleepless night in the hospital when my son was born. And I was holding him in the waiting room, and my wife was trying to get some sleep, because obviously she did all the work and I did nothing. So I was essentially awake with him the whole night, and he was fussing and fussing and fussing. And all of a sudden, this thought came into my mind that, if I ever have the chance, I would love to take my entrepreneurial skills and see if I couldn't, utilize those in a not-for-profit environment and just kind of do things that I'm really passionate about. And so the next day, I recall my wife had slept through the night, and I went in and I told her this idea, and she said, "Yeah, that's nice, dear, whatever."
We have other priorities going on here.
yeah, exactly. Like, we need to get some money for college here. We got a kid. What are you talking about? I think she thought I was sleep deprived, which I was at the time. But it was actually a pivotal moment in my life, and I don't mean to diminish it, but it really was that defining moment for me. And I had the opportunity a year or two later, I was offered the executive director position with a charity in London called Partners in Research, and so I jumped at that opportunity. And one of my roles there was to come up with different educational programming ideas for teachers in the classroom across Canada. And so one of the ideas that I came up with and implemented was the STEM Camp idea. Mm-hmm. And we launched that in 2013. And it all just kind of seemed to grow from there. So I'll stop talking now. That was the genesis. Let you get.
Well, I love how it all began. The night your son was born. What a story! Wow, that's pretty amazing. Have you told him that story?
I have told him that story, and he's quite an interesting young man. He shares a lot of passion for helping people and things, and he's that kid that on the soccer field, if there's a player that's hurt, he'll go over and put his hand on his back, and say, "Are you okay?"
Aw, I love that.
He's
That's
super
awesome.
fun. Of course, I'm only telling you the good things.
Well, we all listen. I would imagine most people watching are our parents, and we all get it, right? That we can share all those positive, wonderful, lovely memories, but we all have those moments too as parents. So, if we can shift right into where my brain's at right now is thinking of summer, because I work from home and I have 2 kids. I have a 9-year-old son as well and a 13-year-old daughter, and my brain's now in full summer mode, going, okay, what are we doing with the kids, right? Because I still need to be able to work and figure that out. And I also know that when kids are home in the summer with nothing to do, that they'll often sit and watch TV, play video games, not necessarily be active. So getting them involved in activities while they are off school during the summer months is that's important for me, and I know it's important for a lot of other parents. And there are a lot of options to choose from, a lot of options. And so I'd love to, shift gears and go right into, first of all, just doing a quick recap about what STEM is for those of the viewers that don't know, and then talk to me about your camp and why would I send my kids to your program?
Sure. Well, let's deal with the first question. What is STEM? And that's a great question. There's 2 answers to that, I think. And the first answer is it's an acronym. It's been around for, I'm going to say, 10 to 15 years now. It's kind of part of the buzz vernacular, I guess, of society and the education sector for sure. And the acronym is Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. So that implies that, there's certain subjects in school that utilize that subject matter, and we've kind of grouped it all together and called it STEM. Isn't that wonderful? And we also now have STEAM, right? So now we have the arts that's included as part of STEAM. So I often joke and say, we're using so many buzzwords here. If we put the letter S now at the end of STEAM, we've got STEAMs, and now we've pretty much covered off every subject in school. So I'm not sure we're going to go with all these acronyms.
Right.
But I think, so that's the first answer. The second answer, though, is it's a philosophy in my mind. And many people will tell you many different things. So all I can do is share with you what my vision of a STEM experience is. Mm-hmm. And in my experience, a STEM engagement, if you will, is an opportunity for a child to find ways to stimulate their imagination and their interest in subject matter. So what do I mean by that? Well, we have a lot of amazing teachers in our educational system. And we have a lot of teachers that teach by traditional old-style methods where kids are in rows and they write on the blackboard or whatever, and we write it down or we memorize it.
Right.
And that certainly resonates with me. I was never a memorizer. I always like to kind of get my hands in there and ask questions and figure out why something doesn't work. And don't just tell me that 2 + 3 is 5. Show me why 2 + 3 is 5. And so for me, the STEM experience is where you give a child a problem and you say, we really need to figure out how to land somebody on the moon. Now, of course, we don't actually do that at STEM camp, but for the purpose of this broadcast, let's pretend we do.
Yes.
And so we put some materials in front of them. And we say, okay, with all of these materials, you need to figure out, how you're going to achieve this end objective. Mm-hmm. And you can use other resources like your fellow campers who are beside you. You can go outside and do whatever you want to do out there. But the idea is that we don't tell them, step 1, take this cell phone and put it on your desk. Step 2, take this glass of water and do this. Nobody learns in that type of environment. And how boring is that? Right. Let's get a whole bunch of different things that they can just sink their teeth into, ask questions. And you know what, Amanda? Maybe they'll fail. Wouldn't that be fantastic? You know?
Yes.
Let's teach them how to fail, and that it's okay to fail, and that once you fail, the world is not going to end around you. The world is actually beginning.
Can I come to your camp?
Of course you can. Absolutely. You have an open invitation.
That's sorry, I'm so passionate about learning how to not learning how to fail. Trying to find the right way to say it, but kids these days, and the way we were raised, or the way I was raised anyways, I really had high expectations on myself to be perfect, and give me the recipe and I can follow it, and then then it's good and I'll get my A. And you've hit that, something that I am really passionate about as a former educator as well, in that there's so much more to education and learning, about the exploration part of it, and trial and error, right? There's a reason why it's called trial and error, and those errors are important. And I wish I had, some stats. You may have some off the top of your head about, famous experiments gone wrong, or people who have, done certain things and in their failure created something even more beautiful. And I love that you're giving that opportunity to kids to just be able to be free and explore. That's amazing.
Yeah, I think we're onto something, and I think the public would agree. I mean, the camp has been very successful, and last summer we had 8,800 campers across 46 locations.
Wow.
So I think that, kind of the spiel, if you will, that I'm spieling out resonates with some parents out there and some educators. It's interesting, you talk about stats. We just conducted a survey with Ontario teachers. And first, let me preface this by saying that both of my parents were teachers, and my wife was a teacher before she retired. I have a great deal of respect for teachers in the classroom.
Yes.
And my personal feeling is that the education system today, teachers do not get enough respect and enough credit for the job that they have to do. In my son's class, they actually have a communication tool where the parents can communicate with the teacher several times throughout the day while they're trying to instruct the classroom. How crazy is that? How about we just let the teachers teach in the classroom, and and we can communicate some other ways. Anyways, I can go on all day about that. I'll try not. So we're putting an awful lot of pressure on these teachers, but we're not giving them the resources that they need to be able to, effectively move with the times, if you will. And so a recent survey that we conducted showed that most teachers didn't really understand what STEM was.
Right.
Not even the first definition of science, tech, engineering, math. And they certainly didn't understand exactly how to teach that in their classroom, and didn't know where to go to get resources to help them. The ones that replied that they thought they knew what STEM was replied, "Oh yeah, we allow kids to have tablets and and cell phones and computers and technology in the classroom."
Right.
Not STEM. That is not STEM. Technology in STEM is not just computers. Technology is ancient. It's been around for generations and generations and thousands of years. It's the mechanisms, it's the critical thinking that goes into how we build a trebuchet and how we launch things, and that is technology. And the magic of the STEM is giving the kids the critical thinking skills to carry that out. So right now we're engaged in kind of a side project that we're piloting. We asked teachers if we could come to their classroom and help them and run some activities with the kids, and there's no charge. We just show up. And, our educators are trained on how to integrate this, and we received over 200 requests last time I checked. And so we are busy now trying to fulfill all of those requests by the end of school. And I tell you that because I think it shows that there's a great deal of demand for this. And there's a great deal of teachers admitting, "Hey, I need some help here. What can you do to help me?" And I'm happy to try and gain more resources to make my classroom a more inquiry-based or critical thinking type of environment.
That's amazing. Wow. I wish that had been around when I was teaching, I'll tell you, because having been in the teacher's shoes and feeling like there sometimes was a lack of resources, having people come in who are trained and knowledgeable and have those ideas and help you implement. I mean, that's a teacher's dream come true as far as I'm concerned. So that's amazing. So as far as the camps go, they're located in across Ontario. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, and sorry, that was the second part of your question. So
That's okay.
I got off on my tangent there for a minute. Yeah, so they originated in London and Woodstock in 2013, and from that that center of the radius, let's call it, we just kind of expanded within a 2.5 hour radius. So they're anywhere from Windsor all the way up to Ottawa, as far north as North Bay. And then down in the Niagara Peninsula, so kind of right around that range. And there's this year, I forgot the last count, but I think there's around 50 or so, if I'm not mistaken. So quite a few opportunities for parents in Ontario.
Amazing. And what's your website so that people can, because I know the locations are all on the website.
They are under the locations tab, and it's stemcamp.ca, STEMCAMP.ca.
Okay, awesome. So I have a few more questions for you, just from the parents' perspective. And these are the types of questions that I either like to research for myself when I'm considering different camps for my kids. So I thought we would just kind of take care of that research for people who are interested in learning a little bit more about STEM Camp.
Sure.
So one of them is, can you tell me a little bit about the counselors that you hire?
We have, so I have two comments on that. The first is, by and large, the counselors are fantastic. These are college and university students. They're taking some type of STEM program, and so they get interviewed and we hire them. Some of them have been with us for years and some are brand new this year. But it's funny because one of the comments we get from counselors, they might be in, third year biology, and they'll say, "Oh, I'm not very good at math. I'm a biology major." And I'll say, "Well, do you by any chance know more math than a 6-year-old?" We're not expecting you to be an expert on every aspect of STEM,
Yes.
but it is nice that they're in that, that career path. The second comment I would have is that we try and pay attention to hiring females. And the reason is, if you've been on our website, you'll know that we try very hard to convince parents to send their young girls to STEM camp. And the reason we do that is because we just don't graduate enough girls that have STEM careers in mind. It seems crazy that we're in the year 2018 and we're still talking about this issue that I talked about in high school.
Yes.
It still exists, so we look for ways to try and put mentors and role models in front of young female campers, and we have such amazing young female counselors that that's one piece of the puzzle for us. So that is by design, and I'm proud to say we have at least 80%, if not more,
Wow.
models for kids at camp. The other comment that I would make, and I know you didn't ask me this question, but I'd like to point it out because I don't like to come across as indicating to parents that STEM camp is the end-all and be-all for every child out there. It definitely is not. And I can tell you, and I hope my son watches a recording of this video years from now because I'm going to call him out on this, STEM camp is his second favorite camp. It is what it is. He loves soccer first.
Right. Yeah.
And if we're going to go on the parent-to-parent level, then I would say to parents, provide your children with as much experiences as possible. Please don't sign them up for STEM camp for 4 weeks, 8 weeks. Sign them up for a week or two. Send them to soccer camp. Send them to the YMCA. Send them to, a robotics camp where they do robotics all day long, if that's what your son or daughter likes. We give them all of those variety of experiences, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you have boys and girls attending your camp, and they're a range. Tell me what the age range is again. Is it 6?
It's 5 to 13. And
okay.
While we're talking about age range and boys and girls ratio, I'll just bring up the fact that we're making some progress in that department.
Okay.
For 3 or 4 years ago, we had a 4-to-1 boy-to-girl ratio, and we are tracking this year 2-to-1. So we've made some significant advances there, and I think it's due to our efforts in our education and
Sure.
parents and things.
Okay, interesting. Awesome. That's amazing. As far as a typical day at camp goes, is it all STEM focused, or do they get the opportunity to, you know, for example, have physical activity, you know, games, that type of thing as well?
Amanda, how boring would a typical camp be? No, it's not typical.
Okay, not typical, not typical.
No.
Just trying to wrap my head around what it's. I can't even take the word out of my vocabulary. What would a day look like, or an example look like of a day at your camp? How's that?
Sure, absolutely. No, that's great. We have, depending upon the camp, we have 4 or 5 time slots available for STEM activities. Depending upon the activity, each activity might be 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes long, something along those lines. There's an hour break in the schedule for lunch, and then there's a half-hour break in the morning, half-hour break in the afternoon. We provide some sporting, some sporting goods to the kids so they can play a soccer game when they're, on some downtime or whatever they like to be doing. So yeah, there is some STEM activities for sure, and they probably do in the week somewhere between 15 and 20 activities. Okay. Some of them they can complete in the first activity time slot, and others it's like a week-long activity that they just keep attending to each day. So it varies. We've also had field trips in the past where they've gone to conservation areas or museums or university or college laboratories. And we've also had guests as well who come in from those places and work with the kids. So yeah, we like to say there's no typical day, but yeah, they're going to do a bunch of STEM activities and get some outside exercise too.
Awesome. So, well, without having a typical day, I guess there's no chance for any kid to use the B word, right? The bored word. if there's always a variety.
I'd like to say that's true, but no, you're going to find some kids that are bored with our camp.
Well, the movement piece is important, especially for my little guy, because he needs to move. He cannot sit still and focused on an activity without getting up and moving around. So it's good to hear that there's some physical activity built in, because that's important too, to keep kids active, right? So as far as if you were to think of your overall goal for children who attend your camp, what would you say would be what would your overall goal be as far as, after a child has attended either a week or the summer, what would that child walk away, say, or feel about their experience?
I could sum it up for you in one phrase.
Okay.
If a child comes to their parent at the end of the week and says this phrase, then I'll know that we've accomplished something.
Okay.
Mom, because it's going to be the mom picking them up and dropping them off, right? Mom.
Not always.
I didn't know that learning could be so much fun.
Oh, that's beautiful.
That's what I want to hear. It. If they say other things like, hey, I want to be a scientist, or I want to grow up and do this or that, that's awesome too. But I think that school gets a bad rap. There's a lot of great stuff that happens in classrooms all across the country and all across the world, really, in lots of different ways. School gets a bad rap. And sometimes, that permeates throughout the kids. It's just a natural thing. But if they can come to a summer camp and they can have a great time learning something and not fall into that, oh, I'm learning again. If they can just do something, blow something up, create a big mess, find a piece of goo on the ceiling, that normally wouldn't be allowed somewhere else. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to create with these kids. Get them excited about making messes and having fun learning.
And keeping the messes at camp, right? You're not going to teach them how to do that at home, right? Or do you teach the cleanup life skill part as well?
Actually, it's funny you say that. We a great deal of time training the counselors and letting them know it is way okay for the cleanup to be part of the activity. You
Absolutely.
don't have to clean up on behalf of the kids. Everybody can be involved in that.
Yes. I think that's important, right? Having them take ownership over, they can't come and just trash the place and have a blast, right? Cleanup is part of life. We all have to take ownership for the messes that we make. So that's amazing that you build that into the day. That's great. Is there anything else that I've missed asking you that you would like our audience to know about your camp?
Well, we've had a lot of fun today, Amanda. We've and I've really focused on the fun aspect of the camp, but there is a more serious reason that we're doing this. So I would like to put this out there because I think it's very important. But if you follow the research and you follow published reports by the government and third-party interest groups, you won't be surprised to hear that we're heading toward a future where a lot of our jobs are going to require STEM-based education, STEM-based learning, and we're simply not graduating enough people across the boards, in these fields. Like certainly we have 3,000 applicants, to come and apply to medical school. I used to be the medical admissions coordinator at McMaster University, and I would see, 3,000 to 4,000 applications come across my desk for 100 positions. So we're not hurting in that respect. But guess what? There's way more to STEM than just being a doctor. And we're heading in 20 years, if we don't change things now, to be in a position where Canada simply won't have enough people that are working in the STEM space to be able to innovate. And STEM is all about innovating, and supporting our global economy relies so heavily on our ability to innovate. And we can't innovate if we don't educate in the first place. And the critical thinking skills all are part of this innovation. So we are trying to solve that problem, or be one of the solutions in that problem. And that is a very, very important aspect of STEM Camp.
Okay, yeah, and you've made an excellent point. So, and where kids are concerned, when you can marry the critical thinking and the fun aspect and the exploration all together, I think that's a beautiful recipe for an amazing experience for kids. So, thank you for bringing this to Ontario families as an option for their children in the summer. I definitely think that there is a need, and I hope that people watching will visit your website and check it out and get educated. And I know that you have a fantastic team in place to answer questions. There's also an FAQ section on your website that people can refer to too. And I have 2 exciting announcements to share too, because I did promise that we would have a few exciting things at the end. So the first one is, if you are sold and you say, hook me up, sign me up today, I want to send my kid to camp, I have an amazing discount code for you. So if you use this code at checkout, you will save 10% from your camper experience. So that is wonderful. Thank you very much, Kevin, for offering that to our viewers. And that discount code, I've been told, will be valid all the way through camp signups. So it should be good for quite some time. And I will put that, I'm going to be doing a couple of blog posts over the next little while with regards to some features on STEM. And I will be sure to include that code in those as well. So speaking of that, in the next little bit, keep your eyes peeled on www.multitestingmommy.com, because we're going to be hosting a giveaway. And I know that you all love giveaways. So one lucky child is going to receive 1 full week of STEM camp at location of their choice. Yes, amazing, amazing. So once we get all of those details ironed out, I will be putting that up on the blog and sharing it on Facebook. And so please be sure to stay tuned for that. If you have any questions that you want answered sooner rather than later, please feel free to put them in the comments below. And I know somebody from the STEM Camp team will be on top of answering those questions if you have them. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Kevin, thank you so much for your time. I know, you've taken time away from your family tonight to be here with us to talk about your camp and how it got started and all of the wonderful experiences that the children will not have on a typical day. And yeah, everybody have an excellent Tuesday evening. So cheers.
Thanks, appreciate it. And hi to Angela back. Hi, Angela.
Okay, thank you.